Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. This is TJ, your host. We are now at the conclusion of the abusive mentality section from Lundy Bancroft's book. Why does he do that? Inside the minds of angry and controlling people. Reality number 10. Abusers are possessive. Our author, Lundy Bancroft, tells us new clients that join his program many times will look bewildered, as if he were giving a seminar on edible plants, and they had just wandered into the wrong room. They can hardly wait to speak. They rise out of their seats to sputter at Lundy.
But these are our wives and our girlfriends you're talking about. Do you really mean to say that someone else can dictate what we do in our relationships?
They smile as they speak, or shake their heads lightly, as if they feel compassion for Lundy's dull wits. They assume Mr. Bancroft somehow has failed to realize that these women are theirs. Possession, possessive. The sense of ownership is one reason why abuse tends to get progressively worse as relationships become more serious. The more history and commitment that develop in the couple, the more the abusive person comes to think of its partner as a prized object. Possessiveness is at the core of an abusive person's mindset. The spring from which all other streams sprout out. On some level, this abusive monster feels that it owns you, and therefore has the right to treat you as it sees fit. Then we come to question number 6. Why is he or she so insanely jealous? For many abusive persons, possessiveness takes the form of sexual jealousy. This style of creature monitors its partner's associations very carefully, expects her or him to account for whereabouts at all times, and periodically rips into the partner with jealous accusations, as Fran did in Chapter 1. Ironically, the most accusatory abusive creatures are among the ones most likely to be cheating themselves. Possessiveness and entitlement make the abusive creature feel that it is acceptable for it to have affairs, but not for you to do the same. An equally important reason for the extreme jealousy shown by so many abusive monsters is the desire to, we've covered in another video, isolate the partner. Isolation. In a previous chapter, we had met Marshall, who did not believe his own hysterical accusations of infidelity against his wife. What was making his behavior go? An abusive person who isolates the partner does so primarily for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it wants the partner to be focused entirely on its needs. It feels that other social contacts will allow the partner less time for it, and it doesn't accept that she or he has that right. Number 2, it doesn't want her or him to develop sources of strength that could contribute to his or her independence, although it's frequently largely unconscious. Abusive people are aware, on some kind of level, that their partner's social contacts can bring strength to the partner and support that could actually enable the partner to escape its control, as we saw with Dale and Maureen in Chapter 1. An abusive person commonly attempts to keep its partner completely dependent on it in order to increase its power and control. Now, because of this type of mindset, an abusive creature tends to perceive any relationships that the partner has, whether it's male, female, or she-male, as a threat to it. You may try to manage this problem by providing lots of reassurance that you'll still love him or her and you're not going to cheat, but you'll find that his efforts to isolate you will not lessen because it fears that you might sleep with another person, because its fears that you might make love to another person are actually only a tiny part of why it's trying to isolate you. At the same time, jealous accusations and isolation are only one form of ownership. There are abusive creatures out there who do not try to control the partner's associations, but their underlying attitude of, "You're mine, to do with as I see fit," reveal itself in other ways. If your partner's sister criticizes it for bullying you, it may tell her,
"What I do with my girl is none of your business."
if you have children, it may start to treat all family members as its belongings. Its anger may escalate dangerously when you attempt to get away from him or her. Keep the word ownership in mind, and you may begin to notice that many of this partner's behaviors are rooted in believing that you belong to it. He concludes this chapter by telling you that abusive creatures come in every type of personality. They come from great childhoods and horrific childhoods. They're macho men and feminine ladies, or macho ladies and feminine men. No psychological test can distinguish an abusive person from a respectful one. Abusiveness is not a product of a person's emotional injuries or of deficits in its skills. In reality, abuse comes from a person's early cultural training, its key male and female role models, and peer influences. In other words, abuse is a problem of values, not psychology. When someone challenges an abusive person's attitudes and beliefs, the abusive creature tends to reveal the contemptuous and insulting personality that normally stays hidden, reserved for private attacks on the partner. An abusive person tries to keep everybody, including partners, therapists, friends, relatives, family, focused on how it feels, so that they won't focus on how it thinks. Perhaps because on some kind of level somewhere, it's aware that if you grasp the true nature of this problem, you'll begin to escape its domination. He gives us a few key points to remember. He tells us that abuse grows from values, attitudes, not feelings. The roots are ownership, the trunks entitlement, and the branches are control. Abuse and respect are polar opposites. Abusive people cannot change unless they overcome their core of disrespect towards their partners. Abusive people are far more conscious of what they're doing than they seem. However, even their less conscious behaviors are still driven by these core attitudes. Abusive creatures are unwilling to be non-abusive, not unable. They do not want to give up their power and control. You, dear reader, are not crazy. Trust your instincts. Trust that gut feeling as we've covered in other videos. Trust the perceptions of how your abusive partner treats you and thinks about you.
Ah, am the Narcopath, and have I got a confession for you? I can't help but notice PJ keeps requesting this of me, which I don't get. He is always so preoccupied with the lies I told you. What's the big deal? I know when we first met, you had just been hurt by that awful person who lied and cheated, which was right up my alley, but I couldn't let you know that. When you told me your sob stories, when you were telling me what your ex did to you, I was thinking, I've done that same thing to somebody else, but I couldn't say anything. All I could do is say, oh, that's terrible. Well, I know what that's like. And it inspired some of my own stories of what I did to others, but again, I couldn't expect to have a date number 2 with you if I would have told you that. So I simply switched the roles around, and you made such a big deal about how betrayed you felt. I just copied the kinds of stuff you said to make it seem like I felt the same way and that I know what all that's like. And I even told you a few stories about what I did to others, but I had to reverse it. It really shocked me when I told you some of the whoppers I pulled and how you had said that was horrifying and that my ex must have been an awful person. Well, I took that as an insult, but I couldn't tell you. So that fueled my rage, which meant you were going to get yours eventually. But I couldn't tell you that either. Still, when we'd have our talk, I was in. I had my claws hooked into your life. We were living together. I was comfortable. And you had to always bring up lies. And I think, what's the big deal? You tried to tell me that you thought I agreed with you about how awful lies were because of the stuff I said in the beginning. The truth is, I was making all that up. I was listening to your story and listening to how you said you felt. And then I was just telling what I did to my ex, evil, and then acting like I was the one who received that abuse. So then later you found out that I was seeing the next door neighbor. I couldn't help it. When you left one day for work, he noticed me and liked what he saw. Well, I couldn't turn that down. He was a football player. Give me a break. You used to try to sit me down and talk to me for hours and go on and on about this lying stuff. And I think, so what? I didn't know what to do because lying is what I've been doing my entire life. That's where I've gotten where I am. Duh. I wouldn't be this successful if I told the truth. Come on now. I'm not like other people. I don't tell. The truth is for losers unless it gives me what I want. But again, I knew if I told you that, you probably would have run the other way. So I had to try to keep you and excuse away the little things that happened. But it seemed like you were trying to get me once you found out all the people I cheated on you with. You still liked me. You still wanted to see me, which in my book, that meant you're fair game. You know what I did, and you still want to see me and talk about it? But I didn't want to hear what you had to say because, frankly, when you went through your little morality speech on your white horse about how you can't believe I lied about this and lied about that after you told me about how your ex lied, honey, all I heard in my ear was, you're insulting me. You're making fun of me. You're trying to make me seem like I'm worse than you and you're better than I am. That's all I heard. I didn't even listen to the stuff about the lies. The lies are second nature. I don't even think about those. So to bring that up, that's like talking about the color of the carpet you walk in on every day, which is, who cares? Clearly, I didn't realize when I told you I never lied to you that these lies were pretty big, but I got what I wanted. That's all that matters. That's the theme of our relationship, with me getting what I wanted and you getting lost. Get lost!
Well, I thought I'd also let you know. Remember how each time we used to make love, you used to call me your angel because of the perfume I would wear? Remember that? Do you remember my famous line? I'd always say,
Honey, I
I
don't
don't
want
want
to
to
be your
be your
angel.
angel.
I want to be
witch.
your witch.
Well, there's a reason for that, and I'm about to tell you.